February meeting of the Georgia Game Developers Association. Thank you all for braving the storm. Definitely didn't expect this many people out in the blizzard of 2016. I'm Andrew Greenberg, Executive Director of the GGDA. It is my pleasure to introduce Sarah, who is the President of the Atlanta chapter.
Once again, thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it. Great turnout. I'd like to thank Microsoft for hosting the event tonight. Super cool. And they provided us with good first night, so that's really awesome. Couple of announcements. Our next meeting is going to be at SCAD, and they're going to be talking about 3D scanning. So when you scan something in real life and it turns into a 3D object in the computer, for those of you who might not know what I mean. So that's going to be really exciting. And also, I'm the president of the Advancement of Women in Gaming. So we have some exciting news coming up with that. Sometime at the end of February, beginning of March, I'll post the dates later. We're going to have a little meetup for women to talk about the things that they've gone through as a woman in this industry, the struggles that we've gone through. So that should be really fun. And then also we are going to start a mentorship program. So if you're interested in becoming a mentor, let me know. Yeah, you are. I would prefer you were, but you don't have to. So that is also IGDA. Molly couldn't be here tonight, but don't forget the speed dating game play. They're doing like a speed dating thing with games, so that way like you will spend so much time playing someone's games, doing some play testing. That is on Saturday. I'll be posting the link on the GGDA Facebook group, so that way you can have access to that. And I have some fun stuff to throw at you guys. Woo! First is a t-shirt. Oh yeah. T-shirt that I'm holding upside down. T-shirt. So I'm just gonna close my eyes and just start. Yay! And then where's the other shirt?
I'll give away the other shirt.
Okay.
So you get to give away the golf tee.
Yes, and then also we have Microsoft golf tees. That I also get to throw. You've been a little bit sharper. Those of you at home watching, this is why you should be here. And then I have more because I don't want to throw more.
But everybody gets golf tees tonight, courtesy of Microsoft. Do the putter works on your Xbox.
And then everyone also gets the goodie bags, which we'll give away after in an organized fashion.
Especially since there's valuable codes in there, right?
Yes.
See, you should have been here tonight.
They're discount codes. Yeah. All right. With that said, that's it for the announcement. Andrew has some things to say.
Yeah. A couple of things. The first one is thanks to everyone who took part in the Global Game Jam at the end of January. Who here was there and took part? Yeah, a good chunk of the folks here. Excellent. Well, we have the announcement for the for Georgia's Best Award. Each of the sites submitted one game to be judged by a panel of professionals from Tripwire, Blue Mammoth, Dragon Army, High Res, and so on. We had almost 10 judges involved in it, but it was still a very close judging. And it really came down to 1 point for Merciful God. So today we hear from that team. Excellent. Congratulations. So what you get as so the whole team gets passes to Siege in October, the Southern Interactive Entertainment and Game Expo. You get a place to display your game if you want to at Siege. And probably the most important part is a number of our professionals have offered to give you advice on how to incorporate your company, how to take the game to market, how to improve it, and so forth. So that's really the most valuable part. At Siege, we have a game investment conference where you can talk to investors, see who will support you down the line, but you really need to have company together, you have partnership agreements in place, and you have a real business plan in place. And that's what the professional consulting is about. So talk to me after this, and we'll get you guys all doing it. Who knows what's happening on March 1st in Georgia? That is the presidential primaries in Georgia. And we've been a partner with the Video Game Voters organization. So they sent us a t-shirt for videogamevoters.org. Awesome t-shirt for the Video Game Voters Network. I love all the hands raised that look like they're gnarled from having handled the controller too much. But anyway, I'm going to throw the t-shirt to someone who can name one presidential candidate running on March 1st. There we go, Bernie Sanders. Yeah. So that's what I have. So we're holding this in the Microsoft store because Microsoft in general has been a great partner for the Georgia Game Developers Association over the years. We're actually live streaming this meeting out over the GGDA YouTube channel. We're recording and putting it up for later use as well, so you can watch it again and again. But Microsoft has been a good partner in helping us do teaching demos. The Event for Women Games group has put on game tutorials for under 18. But Microsoft in general has been a key part of the game industry since it started. So we're very glad to not only be giving away the discount codes for the Microsoft products, but to have them come up here and have a chance to talk about what Microsoft itself offers, what kind of tools they have, and how the store can help out. And while we're waiting for the Microsoft reps to come and join us, I'll talk a little bit about the other events we've done here, which have been really successful game development events where students have come in and learned, kids have come in and learned Unity. I believe we've had some Construct 2 work out here as well. We've worked on the playtest, and we're looking to do more and more down the line. So we can probably pause for a minute as we get the Microsoft executive. I'll throw out more golf teams. Throw out more golf teams. All right. Sorry, Microsoft folks are having to do their actual jobs right now. Thanks over here. Yeah, I've got a good rep for taking folks out, taking out eyes when we do these. So who hasn't gotten golf teams yet? Oh, you definitely don't.
I need a toothpick. I need a toothpick. I need a toothpick.
Diving into the monitor. I'm going to get this to Matt. You can at least take out the person next to you diving through these. Here, pass this back to Ilya. Alright, Mike. Alright. So, with no further golf ado, I'll go ahead and take one more minute to bring in the Microsoft rep who's going to help us out here. To set this all up, we're looking forward to doing more events up here. As you know, GGDA events rotate around the Atlanta chapter events rotate around the metropolitan area, because otherwise we only get people from one part of town or the other. So it's been great to be able to do them at Perimeter because we're very close to places, to companies like Geneva and Ira Studios here. We do them in town by a lot of big universities, Georgia State, Georgia Tech, like Games at Work. Do them on the west side of town. We've got KSU, the old SCSU, and others. And we're glad to do them here at the Microsoft store. So, Microsoft! This is Microsoft!
As he said, my name is Microsoft. I've got a floor here. So this is going to be our Nothing in Life is Free. This is our mandatory sales pitch for having the event here. Not really. But so for you guys and for me, so I also am a game developer here. I do stuff on the side when I'm not here, which isn't often as I would like. But this pays the bills right now. So the main thing that I'd like to talk about is what I do. Hello.
Hello!
John. So I'm a service advisor here, which is, for all intents and purposes, a computer technician. So I work on people's computers. We offer various and sundry free services. PC Studio Hardware Diagnostics. We will tell you anything and everything that's wrong or right with your computer for absolutely no cost to you whatsoever. So instead of spending 6 hours Googling, Binging, other things on a second device, just bring it in. We'll get it fixed up for you. We'll make sure that everything's all good to go. We also offer other services. We'll build an entire rig for you. We'll put any parts into a rig that you need. If you have a device with a cracked screen, we can replace that. We do anything and everything here, and our prices are at least competitive, if not much better than other places. In terms of straight devices, we got plenty of stuff from laptops and what have you. My personal favorite is actually a Dell game that's super sick, which I never thought I would say ever. My favorite device was a Dell, but it's really, really nice for what it does. Other than that, I really don't have too much to say other than thank you guys for coming here. It's super awesome that I got to work this shit and get to hear everything else. So I really like everything about this, and I'm glad you guys decided to host this year with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. So now the major part of the program is our whole program, and now you've developed a game, now what? So a lot of people came out of the gaming jam with the product and want to know what to do with it, want to know how to launch it, want to know how to continue developing it, and so on. We're not going to talk specifically about how to launch onto the Windows Store or the Apple Store and so on, because there are a lot of tutorial stuff about getting it on mobile. It's not hard. Get through the approval process for Apple. There's not much to it anymore. What's difficult is actually getting traction and success. So we've got 3 folks who are going to talk about different parts of the development process. We have Scott McCutcheon from Solver Studios, who got greenlit with their project very quickly, very successfully, and I think they did it very professionally. So I'm looking forward to him talking about their experience with Greenlight. Who here has a Steam account? Yeah, pretty much everybody. So Greenlight's become one of the most effective ways to launch a game, whatever final platform or platforms you're going to put it on. Second, we're going to have Mac and I talk about his successes also on Greenlight, but also he's been working very actively on building a strong community for their games. So I look forward to his discussion on once you put it up, how do you build that fervor, how do you get people really interested. And finally, we're going to have the most exciting part of the conversation, which is Lauren, our attorney here, talking about how to incorporate. One of the most important things with any of these games, and it's not just one person, is having a real company doing it and a really intelligent partnership agreement. The thing that can blow up worse than anything else you do is the company itself. So looking forward to her discussion on that. So, with no further ado, Scott, if you want to come on up, talk a little bit about Solver Studios, the product you created, and getting greenlit. Thank you. Scott McCutcheon.
As Andrew said, my name is Scott McCutcheon. I am one half of Solver Studios, together with Before I get started, since we're in the Microsoft Store, I wanted to take the opportunity to push some of Microsoft services because nobody else really mentions this a lot. Microsoft offers a program they call BizSpark, which if you're unfamiliar with it and you're trying to get into development of any sort, this program can really help you out. They basically give you, if you're an up-and-coming entrepreneur or something like that, they give you 3 years to use their services free of charge. Basically, they give you $150 a month in author credits. They give you free licenses for Windows Server, like free licenses for Windows Client, a whole bunch of stuff. It's really awesome. So take advantage of it if you can. That's something that we did for the Solver Studios, and it's been just extremely invaluable for us in developing our game. That being said, Jacob and I built a game called Ethereal Legends that we started working on in August of last year, and we built this demo. It worked pretty well. It's a Japanese role-playing game, kind of turn-based RPG, similar to like Final Fantasy, something like that. And we built the demo. It worked. We put it up on Greenlight maybe 30 days after we built that first demo, and we had the whole thing greenlit in about 10 days, which was not unheard of, but it's pretty quick for a lot of indie games. I think the most important thing for us in realizing or getting greenlit that quick was just realizing who we were selling to first. The audience on Steam is what I would consider a more high quality audience, right? These are the PC master race people. You know, they're looking for 60 FPS and high quality graphics. You know, they don't care about your 8-bit Nintendo game. You know what I mean? So knowing that, I think was really helpful for us simply because it forced us to create a very high quality video, very high quality, page, right? Described our game, had a lot of really high quality screenshots. I made 6 really fancy GIFs to put up on there, and I think those GIFs really helped a lot because it showed people immediately what the game was like as they're scrolling down the page. They don't have to watch the video, they don't have to read the text, they just see the GIFs, and that made a huge difference. So with Greenlight, the trick is that basically you have to put your best foot forward, give a real good impression the very first time people see it. As soon as they click the link and look at your icon, or look at the icons of all the games that are on Greenlight, yours needs to stand out. When they click on yours, your whole page needs to stand out. It doesn't really matter if you haven't played the demo, it doesn't matter if anybody can go download it, it doesn't matter if they can call you up on the phone or send you an email. All that matters is when they look at your page, is it impressive? At least as far as I was concerned. Just needed to look impressive, and sure enough, it seemed to have worked out pretty well for us. So like when you hit submit on your Greenlight page, they put it up and you get an immense amount of traffic in the first few days. After that first few days, your traffic obviously will taper off. You'll have to do a very large external push, external marketing push, get a lot of people talking about their game to get any more traffic after the first 3 or 4 days. So really that first 3 or 4 days is extremely imperative that you really get a good first impression of everybody that sees your page. Once you do that, you're pretty much good to go. You can just sit back and watch your numbers grow, right? People come in and go through the page, and that all works. As far as once you've got the game finished, and hopefully by at this point you're on Greenlight, Steam basically wants you to get to 100%, I think it was, it's within the top 100, right? Top 100 games on Greenlight. Our particular game never actually made it there. Steam, Valve actually greenlit us when we were, I think, 80%, 85%, something like that. We didn't actually make it into the top 100. So I don't know what that tells you, right? But basically says to me right there that it's an extremely competitive cycle, to get into the top 100. But when I think we pushed it through, they were doing matches in groups of every 30 days, right? They take the top 100 and they patch everybody in. I'm not sure if that's what they're doing now, but I'm pretty sure it's still probably around that same area. So if you can get yourself up close to the top, the chances of you getting patched in that month are pretty high. So I guess that's really all I got to say about getting your stuff through Greenlight. Hopefully those tips will help you out in your own games. You got questions?
This may not be much of an issue for most of y'all, but if any of you have worked on any certain projects, some family games is complicated, but if you work on any family games, say like Renegade X, everyone's heard of that, or the 3 my project, copyright might be another concern when it comes to Steam Greenlight, or almost any distribution in general nowadays. So yeah, just giving a header warning there. You might, if you don't know, unless you own the IP or something like that, you might want to contact whoever owns the IP. If you're working on a family game, you might want to contact whoever owns the IP and get that settled with the Greenlight before, or get them to set the Greenlight one as well, before you get it through there. Because I kind of got hit by a weird surprise. I actually submitted my game years ago when Greenlight was just new, when it was free as well. And not a long story, but little I know that I submitted my game at the wrong time too. But this is all the time where other gamers some users were abusing the system and setting in troll projects and whatnot. And I guess somehow my game got mistaken for a troll project for a reason, and it got banned and such. we want to explain it wasn't show product, gave evidence, now we want you to clarify the copyright balance. So just putting the heads out there, even if you pay $100 fee now, starting fee now, just get that cleared up before, so you don't get any disappointment and your money wasted.
Yeah, that's a good point. In that you definitely don't want to, if you're using copyright assets in any of your projects that aren't yours, you don't own them, you really don't want to put that up commercially on Steam Greenlight. It's just not a good idea. The chances of somebody coming back and paying you for that one on the street are high. Yeah, okay, so I guess the next guy is Matt Kanai, working on doing him the Samarizing Images.
Yeah. Hey everybody. Thanks Scott. My name is Matt Kanai. I'm creative and art director at Impact Games and level designer at High Res Studios. To kind of segue from what you were talking about with Greenlight, a year ago, almost to the day Hanukkah, our indie game got greenlit. It was a similar kind of experience, really. We started community building a little early, and that was pretty much completely done from Twitch. And just kind of, you have your local community, family and friends, and they kind of serve as your base, and you need those people to have a loud voice. It's difficult because you look at indie games now and it's kind of changing from how marketing was done in the past. It's kind of, you're depending on YouTubers and streamers and content creators to push your product, because indie games don't have budget to pay, $100,000 to take over IGN's whole website. You see like Star Wars Battlefront launches, like every website you go to has Battlefront everywhere or whatever. Just as an example, AAA marketing versus indie. If you have an idea and you have a prototype, starting to build for your family and friends, and then for us, we actually streamed development on Twitch like 2 or 3 times a week. I've probably streamed 1,000 hours just doing art, and it's tough because you have an expectation, you believe in yourself and your ideas, and you're saying, I want viewers, and there's 2 people watching, and this isn't even worth it. Why would I stream when 2 people are watching? And then you just stay at it, and then all of a sudden people start asking questions, and then they tell their friend from school, like, hey, this dude's been working on this game like all day, you gotta watch, it's so cool, I want to make games one day. And then, it goes up to 5, and then all of a sudden there's 20 people in there, and there's 50 people in there. And that's when you start building up your super fans, because they feel invested. And I think for community building, making people feel invested in what you're doing is the most important thing you can do, because it's a community. I consider a lot of I don't even consider them fans almost. They feel like friends, because it's like being at a meeting like this or being out with your buddies and you're like, hey man, how's the game going? You tell them about it. That's exactly how the stream works, or a nice personal forum where you're talking directly to your community, and then they're asking you, you get to know them. Did they ask you in chat on Twitch, for example, or it's like, hey, look, you put a song in, hey, I really love that song. Oh, yeah, me too, I love this band. You get to know them, they get to know you, and there's an interpersonal relationship. It brings down that wall of like company to consumer. It becomes a family instead. And I think that goes a really long way for games. So that was kind of our approach to Greenlight, which went well. Like Scott said, you put it on there, and it just, the traffic that Steam provides is pretty insane the first couple days. One thing that I would say is in November of 2014, we started planning our Greenlight and our Kickstarter, and we debated a lot whether we should do Greenlight and Kickstarter at the same time, do them separate. And we learned the hard way that we didn't make the right choice, actually. We did Greenlight first, thinking that if we got greenlit, then it would boost our credibility. So when we would go on Kickstarter, we'd be like, oh, we're already greenlit, but we can produce something and get the game done. And it turns out Kickstarter, the people that went to Kickstarter didn't really care too much that we were greenlit. And the problem with that was we didn't have the traffic. Steam produces so much traffic, you need to filter those people somewhere. They need to get funneled to a Kickstarter or your website to capture them on a mailing list, or provide some kind of incentive for them. Be like, hey, we're on Greenlight Round, go to our website and register. We're going to bring in people for closed alpha with the devs. We're going to pick, 50 people from this mailing list or whatever, something of that nature. So Unfortunately, we didn't do that. We just let the traffic came through, Greenlight gave us our votes, and then they were out the door, and we didn't really capture only a really small percentage of those people. So Kickstarter launch, it was really, our campaign ended up not going through, but 100% of what we raised is from family, friends, and super fans, and then their immediate networks. So it's like our community building from that standpoint was successful, but it just didn't have the bulk of a huge, where you have people with 100,000 followers on Twitter, or Facebook, or YouTube making content. So after that, the failed Kickstarter kind of opened our eyes to kind of what we needed to take, or what direction we needed to take the game, because you get feedback from Greenlight too. Like Scott mentioned, it's a very master race kind of community. They're very rabid with their feedback, and they can be very negative. And we learned that. So there's either this is awesome, or like these animations are crap. This looks like crap. Or it's pre-alpha. What do you want from us? Like, we want to finish the game right now. So it kind of opened our eyes to the quality level we needed to hit. So we turned the focus to improving the quality and continuing to build our community, knowing our community has to be built larger for us to give Kickstarter another go. Or since then we turned focus more on seeking investors, doing the Seeking Investment Conference and having success there, and looking for the people that give us the resources to build. Because I feel like we need it. In indie game, I feel like you need something, if you can, network and have it organically picked up by a streamer that it's like, oh dude, I saw this, this looks amazing, can I play? And just conventions and things. You can meet the Twitch streamers that have massive followings or at like every convention ever, so you can find them and talk to them. Hey, even though they're getting paid with emails all day, there's nothing to lose by asking someone to check out what you're working on. Especially if you believe in it, there's no shame in I think not being afraid to get it out there and go up to someone and say, hey, we check this out. So that's pretty much the basics and a few quick tips on what path to take with that kind of stuff.
So were you saying that you'll make a judgment
Yes, I didn't actually finish that point. I do think you should do them together if you're going to do both, because you can benefit from the traffic. And they actually have a section on Greenlight where you can put a crowdfunding link like built into the page. And I think we would, I don't know if we would have been successful if we did it that way, but I think it would have certainly done a lot better.
Yeah, the traffic on Steam, like within those first, right, the traffic on Steam within those first couple days, like day 1 to day 5 or day 4 or 5, you'll probably get well over 10,000 people looking at your page. My first game that I put on Greenlight back in 2014 had almost 25,000 people look at that page. It's much different now. It's less. The quality of Greenlight just has gone down overall over time. So the amount of traffic is, but if you sync your Greenlight launch and your Kickstarter launch, all 10,000 of those people that see it could theoretically also see your Kickstarter, which is a huge difference compared to, a couple hundred seeing your Kickstarter.
That's a good point, because it seemed, when we did Kickstarter research, it seemed you needed about 5,000 backers or higher, and usually that roughly took you close to what your goal was, and we got 1,000 on there. And if you could filter 25,000 people, and you figure you're going to lose most of them, but even if half of them or 25% of it might get you much closer to your goal than just relying on your own personal networks that you built. So yeah, any other questions before I pass the torch?
Yeah, Matt, other than Facebook and Twitch, what do you consider your most important social networks or social media tools for building the community?
That's a good question. I almost feel like we really haven't used Facebook or Twitter too much. Twitter, I think, has been better on a personal. Our actual game Twitter does way less engagement-wise than my personal one. Because for the same reason, I think having an official game Twitter, unless it's a super popular IP or a resurrected IP or something, the people, you're talking to the game, and it's this faceless entity. You're not talking to a person. For indies, I think it's more important that you connect as individuals. So usually I'll announce streams or events or whatnot from my personal Twitter, retweet from the game, and the following's grown larger globally that way.
But Twitch has been really good for you, and what do you think, or have you used Instagram for beautiful art?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, we do a lot on indie TV.
Okay.
And you post, the thing about GGDA is they can either authorize or archive your posts. And now they require, I think, 3 images in a video every time you make a post for it to get listed. But if it gets listed, it goes straight to their front page for like that whole day. And you get a lot of traffic. You'll get probably 1,000 uniques every time you post an update that gets authorized rather than. So that's been pretty good. That's a good community too. There are a lot of game developers and such, so they're very supportive. Like Indie Database.
To pick up on IMDb.
Yes.
Can you read the question?
She asked, what about YouTube? Do we post videos or trailers or whatnot? We do. It's hard for indies to produce videos constantly, at least for us it is. If we want to make a video that takes, the whole team has to leave development to produce the video. If there's animation specific for the trailer, if we want to gotta do a certain action that isn't built into the game, it will set us back 2 or 3 months on development and the game's behind, but now we're doing video. So we have to kind of pick and choose. But YouTube's been okay. We did an April Fool's joke where our samurai characters had their swords replaced by pillows, and when you hit, feathers would fly out, and we put physics on, so if you hit a half a pillow, you'd fly across the world. And that got picked up by a bunch of best April Fool's jokes in gaming type articles, and that was our most successful video. I mean, it's still like 15,000 views, and it's not outrageously viral, but for a small, at the time, we were only developing for like 6 months. And then with our Kickstarter demo, it fell during April. So on April 1st, in our Kickstarter demo, if we did arcade style, you're just in like an alleyway, and one bot kind of charges out at a time, and it gets harder. Each one you beat, the next one's a little more difficult. We added on April 1st that your weapon would turn into the pillow, and you could play with the pillow in the demo. It was like a little thing. It never caught on as much as we hoped, but it was still fun to do. People appreciated it that actually got to experience it.
I just wanted to add that maybe it worked for me, and again, I'm pretty small and what I'm doing is nothing special. But I did a YouTube video once, only a couple of views. I went ahead and I posted it on Reddit, and since I'm also doing VR, I guess that's because it's a buzzword, people got really excited on that. And from, let's say, like 20 views a day that I got on a video, it went up to like 2,000 in like 1 day or 2 days. Just like put it on Reddit. And another thing that I did on Reddit that worked really well is, like, I had this game, I had a mechanic, and I didn't sure if I wanted to go with option A or B, so I said, my game, this is what I'm doing, need feedback, please help. And people start just giving me feedback like crazy. I mean, it does backfire because they can steal your ideas, I guess, but if you want some good user feedback, I mean, for me, Reddit has been amazing.
Yeah, Reddit's the best.
Can you make the microphone shut?
I mean, Reddit's the largest one there is, right? They got 60 million users, something targeted. It's like insane. So I mean, yeah, using Reddit to promote your game, obviously is one of the best things you can find, especially for being free. You're not wrong with VR. Yeah, I do the same thing like that. With our games are VR related too. So I go post an outside Oculus, and like, once people just come and look, it's just all over the place. So it's really handy.
Yes.
I always seem to have to watch a lot of that.
Speak into the mic if you would, we can pick it up over here.
I seem to have the worst luck with Reddit for some reason. With promoting anything in general, doesn't matter what I do, it never works. Well, except for only one thing that managed to work, and that was when I promoted some video a user made, and it was off an actual one. And that only ended up in the shadow man.
My question is, how would one
I would say that's a good question. The question you asked was, how do you go about having like a successful Reddit or Twitter? How do you promote that best? And honestly, I don't know the best answer to that question. I mean, I feel the same way a lot of times. It feels like you pour everything you have into your game and your idea, and then no one wants to see it. Like what's happening? And I felt that way. I've lost sleep over it for like 3 years. Pretty often about it because it's hard to get the word out. Because games are so much easier to make than they were in the 90s and 2000s. But there's thousands of games everywhere, and it's so oversaturated. It's hard to break the mold. But the analogy that I make, I think, is compared to being like a local band, just trying to break out and become like an arena band. Foo Fighters or something that's touring the entire world all the time. And I feel like you just have to stay at it and keep building one fan at a time. It's slow. It takes a lot of patience.
The thing is like Red is I have no license. It's like it's always such a deal.
And I think I've had the same experiences too. Things we thought would do amazing and be this huge, social explosion didn't do, 2 likes or something. And I mean, it's nice to have the numbers and the quantification, but I think if you just keep working on your craft and keep building your game, eventually people will notice. And I don't have the right answer, unfortunately. I wish I did, because I'd be using it too.
I think consistency is key. You're not wrong. Like something we do is like we do most of our promotion through Twitter. So Twitter's been huge for us. But something Jacob and I do is every Saturday we send out a tweet with a screenshot Saturday hashtag. Every Saturday without fail, or almost every Saturday without fail. We almost always try, and that's just a consistency day. Because every Saturday, a bunch of people retweet it, and unknown retweets us or something like that, and we get a bunch of new followers every week. And just add on to it. It helps a lot. Consistency.
I support that point 100%. Should have mentioned that before, because it's exactly right. Having a consistent schedule where your viewers know what time or what day they need to look for the content you're trying to give them. So after our Kickstarter, I didn't take it well, so we just didn't post anything for like 6 months. And then I tried to start streaming again, and it went back to like one person watching each stream, and it was like complete reboot. So it went from, I was usually getting 50 to 100 viewers per every Twitch stream and having very engaging conversation with the fans to back to like one guy like, hey, what are you making? So consistency is really important. Once you lose it, it is hard to get back. So it's just like building your house or your castle like one brick at a time.
After me, we've got a couple of questions behind me too. I'm in the process of trying to start a YouTube thing and all that crap and social media. One tool I have found immensely useful is automated, just internet automation, IFTTT, stuff like that. So that you put something out and then it goes other places. If you're like a one-man band, it would really save time.
I did that with our Twitter account and our Facebook page. So like when I post to Twitter, it automatically posts to Facebook. I'd really like to do it across more services, but
Like a tweet suite or
Right.
tweet deck, one of those.
Something like that. Pretty helpful. Stop shop.
If you're back and come forward with questions, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, easier on.
So I mean, Scott mentioned a while ago that you really want your stuff to kind of stand out and the developers are kind of scrolling through it, really stand out. So, as an art director, creative director, what are like you and your other colleagues looking for in terms of artwork and concepts and stuff that really stand out?
In terms of like when we're looking for people to staff, or and just in general for like art direction for like a green light campaign, like the graphics or
More so for people to stop.
okay. Well, first, a basic foundation just in art. It depends on what position you're going for. And I prefer someone to be specialized in what I'm specific. If I want a UI artist, like I don't want someone generally, but it depends what studio you're targeting to. And I want them to have a good eye for art and color schemes and shapes, forms, basically art principles. And then just a solid portfolio for like 3D art. 3D art's my main trade. So when I look at that, I want great texturing, a good understanding of texturing, and at least good enough knowledge with Unity or Unreal to be able to produce your own shaders and materials. To be like fairly self-sufficient, it depends what level too. If you're looking for it straight out of school, there's a different expectation than if you're looking for a senior level person. Right? But from standing out, I mean, just good work stands out. I mean, like for portfolios, whatever's your best piece, I always show it first. Like if I go to your website, I want to see it first thing. I don't want to scroll through a bunch of stuff or watch like a 5-minute video with music, some techno dubstep. And then 5 minutes later, I get to see your best piece at the end. I need to see it right away to give me a reason to keep watching, or any staffing recruiting person. For my project, we don't have funding. We're not, I can't hire someone, so I have to be very I can't be as selective as if I could hire someone. So it's like, do you have enough potential that I can teach you, or someone on the team can teach you?
I'm just wondering, even streaming to where would you suggest to, is that Twitch or is that other places that if it's trying to build a community through stream material? And what type of stream material?
Could you repeat that question?
He asked like what kind of stream material, how would you go about like, using a service like Twitch or another alternative service for just generating stream content, how you go about that. Is that a good enough synopsis? Okay, so make sure it's not verbatim. For Twitch, let's say our most successful Twitches, we would do a monthly dev update where it was myself and my two co-founders. We're just goofy guys, so when three of us are together, it tends to be entertaining for people. It's weird, I don't notice it when it happens, but we've known each other for 8 years, and we've worked on the game for 8 years. And the last 3 are the ones that really count. And people seem to really enjoy that because it's a scheduled, consistent thing. They know this Tuesday at this time every month they can count on that content being there. And then the other ones are if there's a particular art asset that's very interesting, a hero prop, like a really important part of your level or a really important character. I think character streams generally get more views. People have a lot of interest in how game characters are going to look. And it's really interesting. I find the development process much more interesting to watch. Like, do you want to watch a guy make like an awesome armor guy with spikes everywhere, or do you want to watch me sculpt the rock? there's a pretty huge entertainment value difference in those two things. So usually it feels like a really important thing. There'd be a lot of people coming because they see when you're browsing on Twitch, you see the little screenshots of what's being streamed and it comes off and gets updated. But they'll see like, oh, he's in ZBrush sculpting something. The ZBrush streams are always a big hit versus a 3D modeling Maya or Max is exciting. Sometimes you have to do it. Texturing seems to do well. Finishing assets, people want to see it going. There's been people that have watched a level from the first day we started through the very end and they didn't miss a single stream and they were like, we've never seen a whole level get made from scratch before. But that's a lot of time invested.
That's actually a good question. That was actually a good thing I was announcing too, because I was about to say one thing I've noticed, I discovered that seemed to help, at least with my game, at least is when occasionally, not often as I walk to college, but occasionally I would host live streams or broadcast via Steam of the progress of my game back when we were working on the beta with UK, and it seemed to actually track and follow it, and it also helps our Facebook page and even our the database page where we more. Most of our followership is from ADB and the other ones. It seemed to work when I showed the progress of development of the characters and the levels we designed my game. I figured maybe that's one idea that game devs could try in the future. Few devs have known it.
I agree 100%. I think it's a good way to go always. I'll go along back here.
If you got a question, come up so we can actually get you in front of the microphone here.
All right, so
Just over by this mic. That's the one that's doing the live.
yeah. Okay. So really, my only question was really simple, and it was, Matt, when you're streaming for like what streaming can you use for ZBrush, Max, and Unreal? Do you use the same one?
Yeah. I use open broadcast software. It's free. And it's just super easy to set up. There's tutorials online. It's a Google them working them.
And that's what we're streaming on tonight.
OBS?
Yeah.
It's easy. You can set up picture-in-picture, you can do a monitor cast or a program cast, and just set up an area of your monitor you want to broadcast. You can put overlays. You can put in like a PNG with alpha, so you get like the edges of your frame are gone if the background's black, or you have the alpha channel in the image, and you can just completely customize. And that's when you see the when you watch streamers and they have like, it also has chroma key. So if you have a green screen, you see the big streamers that are sitting in their chair, there's nothing behind them, they have green screen capabilities, and it's a really easy program to use.
We'll go on to our next speaker. Thank you, Matt.
And my name is Lee Warren. I'm an attorney here in Atlanta, the only third client all over the United States. Games is only one of the industries I've started in the music business. I do motion pictures, fine art, visual art, fashion design, theater, circus performance. Generally anything that's creative that people want to make money do. And that's the key, right? Is making money off of your creativity. So I'm here to talk about business entities. And so I'm curious to know what type of business entities are y'all aware of? Just shout out for LLC, C-Corp. Right, that's more of a tax status, but a nonprofit corporation typically becomes a 501c3.
Sole proprietorship.
Sole proprietor, and there's one more I haven't heard. Partnership, okay. And of course, there's a million varieties of partnerships out there. But we got the basic four: sole proprietorship, partnership, LLC, and corporation. Now, so good job. Now, why is it important? Why do you think it's important to have a business entity? Just go ahead and anybody take it. Protect yourself, so liability protection and protection of assets, so tangible and intangible. And that's again going to liability protection, right? Protecting yourself, creating that separation between your personal assets and your business assets. Any other reasons that people form business entities?
Taxes.
Yes. Taxes. So much fun. So you've named some really good reasons, except there's one I haven't heard yet. Say you're not by yourself, you're in business with somebody else. Why is forming a business entity important if you're more than one person? Anybody take a guess? That's sort of touching on it.
Who owns what? Yeah.
Well, yeah. And what's your intent, right? What's the intention of the parties, right? So in the context of copyright, it would be, do we both intend to be an author? Or is one of us going to be the author and somebody else providing a service and not a creative role? Like, what is our role? What is our purpose, right? And so this type of dialogue happens during what we call the formation period. So you get everybody together, it's just yourself, it's you, yourself, and you together, and you talk about what your plans are for the future. Where do you want to be in a year, 5 years? You know, what is the end game? That's really important to discuss what your objectives are. Another really important question that people don't think about a lot, and which they regret all the time, guaranteed, is what if things go south? What's your exit strategy? You know, what's going to happen? Somebody walks away. Who's going to own it, right? All of this dialogue happens during the formation period if you do the job right. And trust. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure every single time. And the reason people hire attorneys is to have that discussion during the formation period. You know, for example, do I want to do a joint venture with someone? You know, do I want to be a silent partner? Do I want to just make money and let somebody else run the business? You know, these are discussions you have at the outset. Because maybe you have somebody who has a lot of money but no talent, but they want to help you develop your game and bring it to market. So this is really important that these discussions happen at the formation stage. And then, what does everybody always say in the legal business, right? Put it into writing, yes. So I affectionately call operating agreements, bylaws, if you're a corporation. I call them blueprints. And they're blueprints because they outline exactly the structure of the company, and it's like a roadmap, right? So what if somebody wants to leave? What if they die, God forbid, right? What's going to happen to their share? What if somebody wants to join? What is the selection process? Who gets a vote? How much money is he or she going to make depending on what they're bringing to the table, right? Because not everybody brings the same talent, right? Or they don't bring the same equipment. What if somebody has all the equipment and all software, but nothing else? So these are all documented in your operating agreement, if you're an LLC, or your bylaws, if you're a corporation. But it's essential to get it in writing. So that's the basic two steps to starting a company, right? Is the registration part, choosing which entity you want, all right, based on your goals and how many people are at the table and what they bring. And number two, getting it in writing, putting it all in a document. Okay. And then there's all the other, bells and whistles like actually registering your company. Only some entities are registered in the state of Georgia. Sole proprietorships are not registered at the state level. They're actually registered at the county or the municipal level. What does municipal mean? Yes. So that's what that means. You get to look at a zoning map. Do you know how much fun it is to find out where you're zoned? Especially if you're right on the highway, let me tell you. There's an incorporated and an unincorporated section of every county and city. Incorporated is your city or municipality, unincorporated is your county. So you still have to document that sole proprietorship, which, by the way, interestingly enough, so what do you think of all the entities that we talked about is the most popular? It's the sole proprietorship, and why do you think that is?
It's the easiest to sell.
It is the easiest, but you would be amazed at how many people do not register because they don't realize that you have to register at the county or the city level. And it's often a lot more expensive than the state. But you don't have to renew every year, like the state, unless a change is made, right? Change in ownership, some type of material change. And so that's basically the 1 and 2. The next two things I'll talk about, and then I'll take questions. So I'll make these real quick. When you're talking about whether to, if you have more than one person developing a game, which typically you do, right? You don't just do games alone, right? I mean, you work with actual people. Is that right?
Yep. No.
So, gotta have that discussion. Are they going to co-own? Are they going to co-manage? Are they going to be an employee? Right? What's that role you're going to play? And that's a conversation you have to have. So it might be more pragmatic to have independent contractors, and just get that in writing, have that independent contractor work for hire agreement, whatever, so that you as a business owner can have more control over that intellectual property. There's an understanding at the outset that whatever services they provide, if it's sound design or whatever else, is the work for hire. Does anybody know what that means? What does it mean? Anybody?
Whoever's hiring owns it all, but explain why people would do it on both sides, why an employer would want it and why the contractor might go along.
So, my understanding, and this is just like with many creative businesses, which involve level of creation, where you're developing a product, and then the distribution side, right? This happens in motion pictures also. Distributors want to know who owns all the IP, because they're not going to take a risk on you if you don't own all your IP. And when I say you, I mean the producer, the business entity, the game developer, right? They want to know that that ownership is solid, that chain of title is documented. Chain of title, what that means is if I have a creation, not an idea, because ideas are not copyrightable, only expressions. Ideas then as a business owner, I want to make sure I own all my own IP, right? So that it's more attractive to distributors, so they'll pick up. So work for hire is there for that reason. It's in the copyright code. It's under definitions, 17 U.S.C. 101 at the very bottom, and so that's what that is. So when you're working with others, when you're collaborating creatively, you want to have that discussion. Are you going to be an employee, or are you going to be a part owner? Are you going to be a silent partner where you're just making money, you're going to have no vote? Or are you going to have an actual vote in the operation and management of this company? These are important conversations, and an attorney can help guide you through that and have that discussion. The last thing I'll say is what to me is the heart of the creative enterprise. Anybody guess what that is? Somebody mentioned it earlier. Intellectual property. Intellectual property, so copyright, trademark, trade secrets. What's a trade secret? Can anybody take a wild guess?
The recipe for Coca-Cola.
What's that?
The recipe for Coca-Cola.
Yeah, recipes. And why are they valuable? Can anybody guess? It's in the name. Yes, because it's a secret. So don't go telling people, what is a trade secret? It's client list. It's your pricing. It's all of that proprietary knowledge that's essential to running your organization. And it's what makes your company tick. What makes you maybe rise a little bit, and what makes you a better company to work for than others. That's your secret sauce. That's your trade secret, right? Trademarks are brand. So Microsoft is a trademark. Minecraft is a trademark. It's an identifier. When you develop a game, you think about, what is my IP? What is my IP? Because that is what you're making money on. You've got to treat your people right. You've got to have good collaboration, good understanding. Meeting of the minds, that's what we call it in contract law. You have to have a meeting of the minds so everybody's on the same page, get it in writing. And you have to have your IP understood and make sure you're not infringing, because the worst thing that can happen to you is you develop a game called Minecraft and then get along, I know this is just a hypothetical situation, and then get far along and then realize you can't use it. And you build that community, and suddenly you realize there's somebody in Albania maybe using the same game, and they've come along a lot farther than you, and they're starting to get in the United States, and they get a registration, and now you have a cease and desist order, and you have to take down your website, take down everything. I mean, foreign companies can trademark here in the United States. They're doing business here, and you better believe they will protect their IP. So, know what your IP is. Copyrights are just original works of authorship, fiction, tangible medium of expression. That is the legal definition. That's not me being funny. That is actually what it is. It's original because you made it. Somebody else didn't. It's a work of authorship. Everybody's an author. You create something, you're an author. You don't just have to be an author of a book. And work of authorship, and it's fixed. So it's recorded. It's captured. It's on paper. It's captured in a tangible medium of expression. And there's I think 8 different kinds of copyrightable works of authorship under the code. And somebody and I was talking to me before the meeting, and they were saying, well, once I drop something, I got a copyright. I was like, you do? Did you know? You do. If I draw a squiggle on a piece of paper, I have a copyright. It's a common law copyright. Why is that? Because it's my original work. It's a work of authorship, it's a drawing, visual art, and it's a tangible medium of expression. However, I can't make money off of it, right? And that's the reason you're here, is you want to make money off of your creative works. And the way you do that is you get a registration, because a registration gives you the right to exclude others. That is a major asset. It's a monopoly. Y'all know what that is, a temporary monopoly on your work. And so with that power, you can exclude others from using that expression, not the idea, but the expression. So that in a nutshell is why business entities are important, especially during the formation stage we talk about. and how that kind of flushes out as you start gathering people to work on your project and actually figuring out what makes your project unique and special. Do you have any questions?
Could you just talk a little bit about how code and algorithms fall under this whole area of patents and copyright?
Computer code. So that's an interesting topic because it's literature under the copyright code. So 17 U.S.C. 102 is subject matter copyright. When I say USCFA, United States Code, Chapter 17, it's the Bible, one of my Bibles, and it is literature because it's written text. So people copyright computer code. However, there are schools of thought that think it should be a trade secret. And then there's, there are so many. Isn't there open source also? There's a lot of different kind of Creative Commons licenses, development licenses, where somebody has a platform. I think Linux was one of those. And if you're gonna, in fact, I was just using CyberDuck the other day, which I think is a FTP code for maps. And I was looking in the laws that comes with it, and it just gives you all the developers from like the last 15 years writing what they've been doing, and I'm like, wow, cool, but that is code. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but as far as patenting, patents are, I actually spent 8 years in patents before I went to law school, so I'm afraid I actually know a little bit about it. It's scary enough to be dangerous, but patents essentially are temporary monopolies that last about 20 years, take about 20 years to get to, right? Depending on where you file. Essentially what you're looking at with a patent, it's tricky in code because usually they're processes. I want to say it's a process that would be patentable material, and it has to be novel, meaning it hasn't been done before. Not only that, but non-obvious to one who is skilled in the art. That's the terminology. So if I'm a coder, right, if I code and I develop some novel, not done before process that's not obvious to one who codes, then maybe I can apply for a patent. But we're talking thousands of dollars. Although there are some great patent firms out there that work with startups that will help you bridge that gap and file at least what we call a provisional application, which are usually like a couple $100, and it'll buy you about a year to get all your funding and your seed funding, so you can get. But most people don't get patents. I don't think. What you're looking at is copyright code, and copywriting is easy. $35 online, one author. $55 for more than one author. It's super easy. Any other questions?
If you want to come forward with questions, don't stay back. You're going to have to come up here.
Yeah, make a line.
What would you find to be valuable as far as terminology towards the agreements? Is anything particular that can make the entire agreement thrown out?
What kind of agreement?
There's non-disclosure agreements. There's non-disclosure agreements, the ones that you mentioned, the agreements between members. Is there certain kind of terminology that has to be used and incorporated for it to be legal? Or can you write a document between people? How do you make these documents legal between people?
Well, that's a good question. The question, in case the people online didn't hear, is how do you write legalese, right? Basically, how do you write a binding agreement? Is there any special magic word that they use? I think there are definitely reasons you want to hire a lawyer instead of going to something like LegalZoom to get your company documents, and that's because each business and idea is like a snowflake. You're all different. You all have different needs and wants and goals, different IP, and you can try doing that. But guess this is the worst case scenario. Let's just say you get some random bylaw for a corporation, and they're not particularly fitted to your organization, and somebody wants to acquire your company. You know, that's one growth objective, right? You want to grow a company so you can sell it to a bigger company or become an affiliate or a subsidiary. Well, what's going to happen during that acquisition process is they're going to do due diligence, and you might not have the documentation you need that's going to be attractive to make you an attractive target, and that's going to be a problem, because then you're going to have to do a bunch of work at the last minute, and it's going to be hell for the lawyer who's doing it, and it might not all get signed, because things might be different, you know, 5 years later. So, is there any terminology? I think definitely. I think every single document is special. Every single one has terminology that is special. Confidentiality agreements are different from non-disclosure agreements. There's a lot of confusion over that. I see that a lot. So you definitely, again, you can try going to LegalZoom and getting a feel or an understanding, but if you're actually going to use it, it's worth hiring an attorney just to at least look at what you've got or give you something that will actually work for you. I hope that answers your question. Right, employment agreements is the same exact thing. So if you're going to have a consultant, somebody just providing services, non-creative services, somebody who is, you know, it's each collaboration. I call them collaborations because you have play testers, you have voiceover actors, you can have all kinds of collaborative agreements for your product, and each one is different, and you're going to waste a lot less time hiring somebody to do it for you, and I don't think I think it's fair to estimate a couple of $1,000 just to get started, just to be honest. I mean, if you're going to have like a company putting it together, that's what I would suggest starting with, just to get the formation card knocked out, and any kind of like advice on what your hopes are. Collaborate with others in the future.
I will take 2 more questions. Line them up over here. If you have a question, come up over here.
Did you have a question in the center? I think we got a hand raised. Did you have a question?
You actually answered it.
Oh, okay. Any other questions?
Good question.
You mentioned earlier about copyright and intellectual property, right? Now, here's one. Let's say an IP has been acquired indirectly from a company, a bigger company has purchased, and the IP consequently has been shelved for a number of years. Is there like an expiration on that one, and is there also kind of a workaround on acquiring certain IP? Yes.
So all IP except for trademarks has an expiration date. Trademarks, the reason they don't expire is because they're based in use. I mean, they will if you don't renew them, okay? But let's assume that you pay the renewal fee every 10 years, which is pretty standard. Then as long as you keep using it, like Coca-Cola has been trademarked for maybe 100 years now. But patents expire after 20 years, and then guess where they go? Anybody? The public domain. Copyrights also expire 70 years. Well, the life of the author plus 70 years is the lifespan of a copyright. And for business entities, so if you assign all your IP to your company, if your company is the author of your IP, your copyright lifespan will be different. 90 years from creation or 120 years from publication, and that's another whole conversation we could have, but the point is they expire and they enter the public domain. There's a lot of works in the public domain. Actually, there's a really cool Twitter site called Public Domain Review. If y'all want to go find it, I love it. It actually publishes what's entering the public domain on a daily basis. It's pretty badass. And so we're talking all the cool Victorian literature is now public domain. You know, Sherlock Holmes is in the public domain now, like most of it is anyway. So you can develop games about all kinds of cool stuff that's now entering the public domain, and you don't have to get permission. But in the case of an acquisition, which I think is what you were talking about, where one company acquires the IP of another company and doesn't do anything with it, that's their right. That's their right. It can sit on that shelf until it expires, and they don't have to do anything with it. They own it. That's the privilege that comes with ownership. One more thing I wanted to mention. Thank you for reminding me. Somebody was talking about Steam, and Scott Scott was mentioning, or somebody asked you, Scott, they said don't put any proprietary or copyrighted asset and, you know, basically make kind of a fan game, right? And publish it. So that's an interesting topic. You can do that, but Steam doesn't like that, and the reason they don't like that is they're protecting themselves from liability because under Section 512C, which is what we call the safe harbor of the Copyright Code, which entered legislation under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, I think that was Clinton, around the end of the 90s, secondary providers like Steam, you know, or Etsy or eBay or anybody who gives users like you a chance to put products out there or services out there to the public, protect them, can't possibly police the number of submissions that they get. And you know, they have to have a way of pulling them down and finding them, but they're not expected to police them. The burden is on the copyright owner. So if you put some of this proprietary stuff out there, part of the game, and you're not going to get caught by Steam, you're going to get caught by the owner. And the owner, maybe they'll see their work, and they can then file a notice with Steam. This happens on Instagram a lot too. You know, you'll get owners of copyrighted works that are being posted to Instagram. You know, like basically under the DMCA, if I don't have a provision in my terms of use, everybody knows what a terms of use is. You go to a website, you see a terms of use, it's a user agreement. I agree to abide by these rules. If I don't, you have the right to remove my account, et cetera, et cetera. YouTube has this also. But to avoid being sued by the copyright owner for providing a platform upon which people can trade works that are infringing, they have to provide takedown notices, a way for takedown notices to get to them so they can take them down. So Steam doesn't like it because they don't want to get sued. So they have a DMCA takedown provision probably on their terms of use. But technically, if you're not using Steam, you can absolutely. There's a whole world of fan fiction, fan art, fan anything out there, and that's what we call transformative works. And there's actually an international organization that advocates and provides legal services for people who create transformative works. So it's a major school of thought, more copy less than copyright, but that's it.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Lee, and thanks to everyone else who showed up tonight. Folks will be hanging out for a little bit. If you have more questions, feel free to ask them. In the near future, I hope we'll have a session on some things that were brought up today, like the effective use of social media, running your games and like. But turn it over to our president to go ahead and close things out and take any last questions.
Alright, so if you want a goodie bag, we're going to have a line right there, single file for adults. So if you want a goodie bag, go ahead and get in line. I'm excited. Thank you guys once again so much for coming, and I hope you had a good time. In the bag.
Looks like a tablet.
Yeah.
It's free service. What up?
I didn't think it was a tablet. I thought it was like a tablet case.
Yeah, I was about to say, I should open it